Excellent. An ale for me. And for my officers. In fact, ales for everyone.
10 Backward. With Rick and Will and Gemma.
Oh, yes.
Hello and welcome to 10 Backward, a UK-based Star Trek podcast featuring myself, Will Turland, this lady to the left of me, Gemma Turland.
Hello.
A man to the further left of me, Rick Everson.
Hello.
And a man all the way around the other side of the table, Rick Palmer.
Hi, I'm in front of you.
Yes, you are in front of me. Today we're going to be talking about the Voyager two-parter, Year of Hell, Part 1 and Year of Hell Part 2.
Smooth.
Thank you. And we'd sort of decided we wanted to talk about Voyager this week because we haven't talked about Voyager a whole lot recently.
No, we've not given Voyager a lot of love lately.
And we debated what we would want to talk about, and I just think Year of Hell Parts 1 and 2 are some of the real highlights of Voyager. So it would be nice to talk about
In a way,
some real strong episodes.
it's one of the. It's a two-part that almost epitomises the entire theme, because what we don't see through the course of Voyager is Voyager really sort of building up the consequences of all the various altercations and incidents they get through. Whereas Year of Hell, you see a year of Voyager where everything just piles on and things just get worse and worse, and by then Voyager's, suffering some serious effects of what's gone on. And sort of, it's always the same sort of. To me, it always seems a shame that when they get back in Endgame, Voyager looks pretty much as pristine as it did in Caretaker.
Yeah. If not better, with all its Borg enhancements.
Yeah.
And Year of Hell is a bit of a taste of what almost the story they could have told with Voyager, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the whole concept of Year of Hell parts 1 and 2 is that the story takes place over a year where Voyager is just Hammond. Hammond?
It's Hammond. Like the organ.
Richard Hammond.
Richard Hammond.
Well, it's true.
Short.
Richard Hammond.
It's short.
It's just hammered. It's just hammered by an alien race called the Kremen.
Yes.
Krenem. And to the point where it's barely holding together. And but yeah, then unfortunately, spoiler alert, at the end, the reset button is pushed, and none of it really happened.
Well,
Which
thank
is
you for
maybe
listening
kind of
to that.
which is one of the problems with the episode, maybe. But
What I do like though is it's quite a good twist on. It's a good use of time travel in this. Well, it's not time isn't travelled in per se, apart from the normal direction of forward at the rate of 1 minute per minute. But it's
things are removed from the timeline, aren't they?
yeah.
So the villain of the piece, Anorax, takes it upon himself to alter time by literally developing a weapon that can remove things from time. So he shoots something, it never existed, and that the timeline then restructures itself to accommodate the non-existence of said item. And he does this because he wants to restore the Krenem Imperial to a point where his wife is still alive, and they were quite powerful.
He originally created it as a tool of war, and now whoops.
His first incursion meant his wife never existed. Obviously, anyone on board the weapon is shielded from the time changes, so he remembers his wife. Otherwise,
Yeah. So there is at one point his first officer states that they've been doing this for 200 years.
Please, we should be satisfied with what we have accomplished. For 200 years, we have never come this close.
Not close enough.
So is that consecutively they have been doing this for 200 years because they exist outside of time, don't they?
I wondered this. Are the Krenem like a long-lived species?
I was confused by that.
Or are they literally immune from the effects of time while they sit on their weapon?
See this,
Are they... If it could say Because obviously
Or are
Chakotay
they
and Paris
Are they in some sort of...
are taken onto the ship, onto the time weapon at some point.
Yeah.
Could they have gone 200 years and Chakotay and Paris still look the same? Or was it just... It's not very clear. It's kind of unimportant.
Chakotay grows a beard.
I think he does that still on Voyager, though, doesn't he?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he does.
He actually
Yes,
shaves
he does.
when he gets to the
that's
Brennan
it.
weapon.
Yeah, I struggled a bit with that. I think I decided in my head canon it was just that they were particularly long-lived, that species. But it did seem to be implying that because they lived outside of time, they could just keep going, and it would be 200 years for them, but no real time would have passed. But I don't understand that, because they're sort of shielded from time by their own temporal shielding. So
was
there a tummy noise?
So in cause and
funny.
effect in TNG, they go through a loop, don't they? And it turns out that they've been doing that for a while.
Yeah, like a
few weeks.
And that ship with Fraser on has been doing it for even longer.
Yeah,
years and years, because that's like from the movie era.
But I'd struggle to see how you could exist out of time and know how long you've been outside.
Exactly.
How do you know outside? How do you know? You can't know how long you've been outside of time.
They still interpret the past, present, and future to their
Yeah.
to their
I
existence.
mean, I suppose they're measuring external time, aren't they? So they're measuring. So they still have a measure of the passage of time, but presumably inside the ship, they're not being affected by it.
There is a cool bit.
I don't know. That's in my head.
No, it's right. There is a cool bit relatively early on in the episode where the blast wave of the Krennic weapon hits Voyager, and there's a similar. It's similar to yesterday's Enterprise, where the bridge changes. And we move from Voyager in the first encounter where the Krennic ship is small and not a threat to where it's much more of a threat, and they may even have been I think they've been dealing with the Krennic for a while. I think it's completely changed. Hasn't
So
it?
actually,
Talk as if it's not. It's one of a few encounters they've had.
it feels like there's a chunk of the story we don't see because we move from one timeline to another, and so that we're with that Voyager crew for the rest of the episode, but we don't see what happened to them to lead them to the point where Voyager. So Voyager's already pretty battered, but we don't see that happening because we're with an alternate Voyager crew for the first sort of 10 minutes or so.
I assume they're still dedicated to the new astrometrics lab.
Yeah,
And that first encounter that we see where they don't really pay much heed to the Krennic was a short battle where they had to back off.
yeah.
But we have to assume, as you say, it's bizarre. We do switch part way through.
Yeah, but then that's it. Then we're with that.
Yes, because
that timeline
they
till
develop
the end.
because the Krennic that they're dealing with have a chronoton based torpedo. They have to develop a defense against that, which also defends them against time stream alterations, because the big old wave of time alteration doesn't get through the shield.
Yeah,
You'd have to switch on the chronotons after you've fired it, though, right? Because those two fire the chronoton torpedo and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sorry, you fire the chronoton torpedo and it turns up yesterday in your ship.
That's
Oops.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
You said it yesterday, not 2 days from now.
Another question I have. So if Anorax and his crew have been merrily removing things from the time stream for like 200 years, why haven't there been numerous instances of this time wave coming along?
Well, it must
Every
have
so often one should just come
It
through.
must dissipate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well, I guess maybe it
But then
does, but
it's-
they've never experienced. They don't ever remember it until their temporal shields
I guess.
come about.
But it
I guess
only affects. Yeah, it only
But we
affects
as the
things.
viewer throughout the Year of Hell are immune to the effects of the time wave, so we should occasionally just see this wave go through, even if there's no discernible effect on the crew.
Yeah, that would have been an interesting idea for like like 4 seasons or so, we occasionally get this wave that comes through, and it just changes things very slightly. We don't get an explanation until like deep into season 4.
But the wave only changes things that are affected by the target of the.
But it's
of the
still
change,
a visible
aren't
thing
they?
that flows through space.
I know. Yeah, it would
So even
wash
if it makes
over
no
everything,
change-
but it wouldn't
The
affect
episode,
it. Yeah.
that episode where it turns out, like with Lindsay Ballard. Lindsay Ballard was a close friend of Harry. We never saw her. Maybe that was it. Was it?
Maybe.
Yeah.
That might explain why we never heard about her before.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so as the episode goes on, Janeway's really insistent that they're going to go through Krenim space, isn't she? Like, absolutely insistent. And one thing that bugs me about this episode is that by the time we get to the end of the episode and the reset button has been pushed and things are a bit changed, there's a line where they get a telephone call from a Krenim vessel saying, "Oh, this area of space is in dispute. You might want to go around it." And Janeway's like, "Noted."
This region is in dispute. I suggest to avoid our territory.
Thanks for the warning.
Good journey.
Tom, plot a course around Krenim space.
It's like, well, wait a minute. If it wasn't a big deal to go around Krenim space, why didn't they go around Krenim space?
I think the key point here is the way that she's asked.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
The guy's
get
quite
her
nice
back up
after that
in the
reset.
original.
Early
yeah.
on, he was
Yeah.
obviously a jerk.
So
And
she has put her
She's
entire
stubborn, yeah.
crew
Yeah.
in jeopardy. A lot of them die.
For her own stubborn
Yeah.
ego.
Yeah.
I think you could definitely read this episode that way. That the whole thing is kind of Janeway's fault for being too stubborn to say, "All right, fair enough, we'll go around your space."
Yeah.
She's like, "No, we're going to keep going.
I-
I don't care." And
And it's kind of.
I like it. I think
I
it's
like
really
it.
interesting.
But it kicks off from the very first attack that damages the ship. There is a crew member dead on the floor at her feet, and someone says, "Oh, and so's dead," and she kind of just goes, "God." And then just leaves the
Yeah,
leave
they don't
the
clean that
body.
up.
She's a bit annoyed that this crew member's dead on the floor, but that's as far as that goes. And then they just get on with it, and that's her whole attitude to this.
I think that's interesting. I think I sort of read this episode as Janeway almost being
A bit of a villain.
part of the problem in a way.
Yeah.
But she's not a villain as
No,
such. But
villain's
she's
a
so
bad word.
committed to getting the ship through Krenim space. She can't sort of look outside and see the bigger picture.
But this is a
it's-
recurring thing with Janeway. We see it like in Scorpion with the whole Borg thing. We see it in Equinox quite badly as well. Because she
Yeah.
really sort of loses I don't know the word now.
The perspective.
Perspective, thank
Yeah.
you. That's exactly the word I wanted. Yeah, she loses perspective a lot in Equinox. So I think this is very consistent with her character.
Yeah.
That she,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And there's a great moment in part 2 where the Doctor tries to relieve her of duty because he says she's psychologically compromised and she's not fit for duty, and she's basically just laughs it off.
Yeah.
She's like, "What are you going to do? Put me in the brig? We haven't got a brig. Smashed to bits. You're a flipping hologram, mate. Come on, come at me." Basically
This
what
isn't
she
regular.
says.
This isn't regular Janeway. This is like war Janeway.
Well,
right?
no,
Yes,
but it is regular Janeway.
Or
though.
is it? But is it like Janeway pushed to the absolute extreme of
It
It is the absolute extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I
that's
think.
in her. It's not. It's not as Rick said. It's not out of her character.
Yeah.
It's yeah. The one way I described it when we were watching it. It's a battle of two Ahabs
Yeah.
against each other.
Janeway
Yeah,
versus
absolutely.
Anorax.
Yeah.
Only one of them has a silly name. It's Anorax. Here's a waterproof coat. A plural of waterproof coats. I think I think what I love about this episode is one of the things I love about this episode is just seeing Voyager getting more and more beat up, and as we've said, having that continuity that we haven't necessarily had in Voyager up until this point. Like, they take damage and it sticks, and to the point sort of weirdly where they're not even sweeping up the floors. That's something
it's a
that
year later and no one's tidied.
We all know that the ships are full of rocks. So.
yeah, there's rocks everywhere. I assume every time we sort of come back to Voyager, they've just had some kind of battle, because every single time, like they'll be sweeping rocks off the surface of a table or something.
Well,
Has no one got a broom?
We've seen in Discovery they actually show there are ship cleaning robots that fly around, sorting things out. Maybe those are taken offline. Maybe they're all on deck 5 when that.
Yes, yeah.
So
no one remembers how to tidy.
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think the point is, no one's got time.
I know.
Yeah. And it's not a priority, I guess. The priority is fixing the ship's systems, isn't it? Not whether the floor's dirty. But it does mean that Voyager looks really cool in this episode. Like, it just gets more and more battered up, and there's girders that have sort of dropped from the ceiling, and there's rocks everywhere, and I really like that.
Yeah, and it leads to one of Janeway's most badass moments in the whole, when she what system is offline and she has to go to that. Oh, it's when they go into the asteroid,
the nebula.
No, it's not the nebula one. It's they're going through some meteorite field.
The deflectors.
They need to get the deflector back on.
But the deflector room is on fire.
Oh yes.
And and she calls the doctor.
Yeah.
Or she tell the doctor to be prepared. I'm going to come in with
third degree burns.
Yeah. Bridge, I'm going in. Stand by to engage the deflector. Tell the doctor I'll be coming back with severe burns.
Captain.
Do it. Be kind.
Oh, it's an incredible moment. She's like, Voyager, be kind.
Yeah.
And she gets like a bit of hunk of like ripped up metal, holds it in front of her face, and just goes in, and she's scarred from that point on, isn't she? Because the doctor can't.
Yeah, they've got no sick bay.
They're
fortunate. I mean, there's a series 3 episode called Before and After, I think, where Kes there's a weird backwards in time thing with Kes, and we get a hint of Year of Hell. We get references to it, and we get to see the opening battle. And in that version, I think Torres and Janeway are both killed in the first encounter of the Krenim. But also we hear in references from the future that the Doctor was offline for a long time. So this Year of Hell worked out slightly differently to that, and that obviously Janeway and Torres survived.
Does she warn Janeway about the Krenim?
But no one mentions it in the Year of Hell, weirdly. No one says,
that's interesting.
Remember what Kes said that time?
Janeway's just like, I tried to forget about that chick.
But that could have been enough to explain why Janeway and Torres survived the first attack. And, minor difference, the Doctor was on his mobile emitter, and so he wasn't knocked offline with the rest of sickbay.
Yeah, so there's a point in the episodes where they're able to scan one of these chronoton weapons and get a sort of, they're able to do something to their shield so that they don't get affected by the blast waves of the Krenim time weapon. And then this is where
the cost of Tuvok's sight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is sight, but nothing else. No, they're encased in a fireball, but his sight's gone.
Maybe the Doctor was able to. We don't know.
True.
I mean, I guess one thing about this episode is we skip through a lot of stuff because it's set over a whole year, isn't it? So we don't know. We could have had other
intentions. The last of his fire damage medicine was used on Tuvok, and that's why he didn't have anything to help Janeway.
Yeah, okay, I'll go with that. But there was a fantastic scene where you discovered that he'd lost his sight. I really liked that.
Yeah, when he's shaving.
Yeah.
And I also like Seven's then ongoing commitment to be like his personal helper.
Yeah.
In an act of guilt, an act of contrition for the fact that her stubbornness a mirror of Janeway as another aside, but her stubbornness caused him to lose his sight.
Yeah.
But now Voyager having this, Voyager becomes like an unknown component in the calculations of Anorax's weapon.
Right.
And it causes a whole bunch of problems. Like it makes things a lot worse. Like he thinks he goes for another what's it, incursion, isn't it?
Yeah.
A time incursion.
It is, because they go from like being 98% complete to then like 48% restoration or something.
Like
Well, what's happened?
So Anorax decides to take some samples. He manages to get Chakotay and Tom Paris. And like anyone would, immediately regrets it, wants to throw back Tom Paris.
Yes. Yeah. But he has a bit of a relationship with. There's a bit of a bromance with Chakotay.
He does, yeah. Chakotay is willing to listen.
Yeah.
Because Chakotay is a guy who meets an alien scientist and wants to know what they want to say, whether they be dinosaur or named after a raincoat.
He invites him to a feast of meals from dead civilizations.
That's so macabre and morbid.
How dark that. Yeah.
Oh God! I mean, nothing screams fucking supervillain.
If he'd been
a host of foods from civilizations I've eradicated.
The only thing that would have added to it is it'd just been playing like an old sort of kind of church organ.
And if he'd have had a cat on his lap as well.
A cat from a civilization that never existed.
I thought there was a nice touch that he has these foods from these civilizations that he's annihilated.
It's a beautiful illustration of his character. I think that he thinks he's preserving this, but from an outside perspective, he's monstrous. Yeah.
So I'm just looking across the table at Rick's notes, and he's literally written Anorax. Ha.
just in case he forgot that name was funny.
Yeah, that's exactly why I wrote it.
In fairness, he's the only one sat here with notes.
That's true. That's very true. My notes are all on the floor, but I can't see the floor from here because I'm hammered.
You thought you'd lost your notes, and then I pointed out they were on the table.
Yeah, and then I proceeded to not
drop them on
not
the floor.
read them or use them.
I left my notes on a planet that Anorax has since eradicated from time. So,
but yeah, Chakotay drinks the Kool-Aid quite quickly, doesn't he?
Yeah, he starts playing with his own simulations of raising things from time. What the fuck, Chakotay? Seriously, what the fuck?
Yeah, so one question I think is what do we all think to Chakotay's attitude in this episode? Because I don't know, is he a little bit of a turncoat?
I think
maybe.
I can see
know about
his motivation isn't. He wants to save Voyager. But I think they didn't go far enough with him. I think he should have. If they should have gone, he should have sold out Tom Paris to them. I think they should have. If they were going to go that way with him, I think they should have gone all the way.
That could have been interesting. I guess they knew they had the luxury of the reset button right at the end, didn't they? So why not?
I mean, obviously,
have Chakotay fuck Paris over.
How much of space can
on screen?
How broad is the remit of the weapon? How much of space can it?
I would assume that anything that would be affected.
I mean, I don't know how large a target is that. Is this what you're asking? How large a target?
How far away can this weapon target?
Anything that because there was one point where he was going to target an asteroid, wasn't he?
Yes.
That he was thinking, and then they. And then Anorax showed him how many.
Chakotay, you idiot! If you'd have taken out this asteroid, I would have erased everything.
Temporal incursion in progress. What happened?
Had you actually eradicated that comet, all life within 50 light years would never have existed. Congratulations, you almost wiped out 8,000 civilizations.
It would have been interesting if he'd kind of taken out the caretaker.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would have been a kind of a Voyager never would have been.
They could have done the same thing and said, well, if you can take out the caretaker, but the caretaker does this thing, I don't know, 10,000 years ago. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
what that would have meant for the Ocampa would have been a very radically different course of evolution.
Yeah.
But, you know, not to say it would have been the wrong one, but...
Yeah.
The basically the Krenim weapon is like a worse version of the Infinity Gauntlet, isn't it? It's like you can't... you don't get exactly what you want.
Yeah.
You're chancing every time. You can calculate as much as you want, but you're always risking it not going right. Whereas with the Infinity Gauntlet, you can get exactly what you want. You can just... It's that powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is. I mean, it's almost like the whole thing of the being careless about what you wish for.
Yeah.
Yes.
The unintended consequences. You might think it's fairly straightforward, but you cannot see every ripple through time that a particular object makes.
That's a really
it's
good.
A monkey paw,
that's a
isn't
great
it?
analogy. It is like making a wish almost.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to make a wish, you have to make sure that's really specific.
Let me tell you something about wishes.
No. But think about it. So, like,
you're right.
If someone wished that they were rich and famous, you could have an accident on a roller coaster, and you'd be in the newspaper, and you get a lot of compensation.
Yeah.
So you'd be rich, and you'd be in the newspaper, but you'd have no legs. But because you've just put that intent out into the universe, something's picked it up.
Yeah.
But it just does the simplest version of your wish. It's like, I'll do that. Like,
you need to be more specific.
Yeah.
I wish I was rich and famous for a specific thing that you could be doing.
It's also there's always payment.
Yes.
He saved the Krenim, but his payment was his wife.
Yes.
And he can never retract that.
And I think the episodes do a good job of trying to make Anorax a sympathetic character to some extent. Not to the point that we necessarily think that he's not a villain, but we understand what his motivation is, and we have some sympathy for him to some extent.
Would you not be
Yeah.
considering wiping out entire cultures if it brought your wife back? I mean, no pressure, your wife is sat right here.
Yeah. Yes, I think you would. Because,
I'm gonna have to say yes, but
he's going,
I can't think of a
shaking his
witty
head.
enough answer.
Well,
that
no,
isn't.
to be fair though, would you? I don't know that.
Which cultures?
Wow.
wait a minute. That's even more of a that's an even. It's going to take a lot of editing to get out of this.
Everybody write down a culture, and we can show it to them. You can say yay or nay to the ones, and then no one knows.
God.
Let's not do that. But yeah, I would agree. I mean,
people who watch The Only Way is Essex.
Yeah.
Oh.
You might. What if you're surprised about who's
That's not a culture. That's an audience.
The antithesis of culture.
As we say, as we sit here on our ivory tower, podcasting about Star Trek. But yeah, going back to Anorax, I think he is a character you can sympathise with. You understand where he's coming from, and I guess Chakotay's our way in to that maybe. And the second part of the story, we spend a lot more time with Anorax. And Chakotay, and I like that stuff. I think it's a really interesting decision to have Chakotay bond with him, and almost, there's some conflict with him and Paris then off the back of that, and I really like that stuff.
Paris is very much like this is black and white. He's the bad guy, we're the good guys kind of thing. Whereas Chakotay is like, this guy's doing this for this reason. And actually, is there something we can turn to our use? Can we look at that? And
That's
no, Chakotay, it's fucking ridiculous. You're wiping out civilizations.
Yeah.
If you take time to listen, you'd understand what Anorax is trying to do.
What? Wipe out civilizations to help his own race? I understand perfectly.
It's more complicated than that. Anorax is an enlightened man. misguided, but I think he wants this to end as much as anyone.
I guess I don't have the instinct for time, or whatever it is Captain Nemo out there calls it. Chakotay, he's been flattering you, and it's gone to your head.
You're out of line, Lieutenant.
But he wants to do it. It's the same way Anorax did. They want to do it from what they think are the most purest motivations. But the
he's had 200 years to
effect
condition
of it.
himself to it not being genocide.
He has, but I also like the sense of it being a cursed ship.
Yeah.
The rest of the crew, well, specifically his number one, just
Bruce.
wants it to stop.
Yeah. Because they're sick of it.
Yeah.
It must be exhausting as well.
Yeah.
200 years of that.
Yeah, it is a very much a cursed ship kind of a story.
It's a good vibe. It's a good atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's great because it's one of Chakotay's best things because they put Chakotay basically in a philosophical head-to-head with the villain, and they've got a decent actor in. This time. They've
I
not got
agree.
Just
actually.
anyone. They've got it's Kurtwood Smith, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's bloody good. I mean,
Yeah. I think that's a big part of what makes this episode, these episodes, a success. Actually,
it gives Robert Beltran a rare chance to showcase some acting chops around Chakotay.
Yeah.
It gives Chakotay some meaty story to get into for a change. Let's be honest, he does not get a lot of opportunity, so it's really good for that, and it puts him up against someone who's very, very good.
Yeah,
so it's some cracking stuff.
Yeah, Kurtwood Smith is great in this.
Definitely.
And Anorax is. He's rationalised his actions, hasn't he? But he talks to Chakotay about how he's done that. Like he basically convinced himself that they never existed, so he's not killing them because they never existed. So he's not. It's like Anorax is not necessarily all the way evil, but he's not lost. It's not often you get like an antagonist that would talk in that way. I don't think. Like, I mean, not to say that Star Trek doesn't do grounded, interesting villains, but eventually something shows. More often than not, something will show through on a villain where it's just.
When we say that we've got a solid Trek actor regular versus a fantastic guest actor, one of my first thoughts would be going to say Chain of Command, where
I was going to say that too.
But whereas Golden Dread is a character who very much believes in the rightness of his own course, despite the fact he is doing horrible things. Anorax has more of a, I don't want to necessarily do this, but I'm now in a course where I have to keep doing it because my goal is always nearly in reach.
But is that something he tells himself? Because he does make it is a weapon of war initially.
I think that's the beauty of he's such a conflicted character because he can't give up that goal and can't give up using it and stopping there. Does he really recognise the rightness or the evilness of his actions? He's somewhere, I don't know if he really does. I don't know how much of what he's saying is for Chakotay's benefit. Maybe he's actually far more evil and calculating, manipulative than we think he is. Maybe we want to see the sympathetic side. It's kind of that's interesting. It's never entirely, and I'm possibly the actor had a definitive thing, and I think probably the writers meant for him to have that more sympathetic side. But I think you could read it as being the other way as well if you viewed it in that way. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of you can come away with drawing your own conclusions about it, because that's the best way to come out of it. It's like, I can't be 100%. I think it's this. You can talk to someone else who thinks it's different, and I think that's when it's really, really good.
I think that's one of the real strengths of this story, that not just the guest star is a really good actor. It's a really interesting character that he's playing. Yeah, and that's. All that stuff is brilliant, and then you've also got the whole story of Voyager, which really gets put through the ringer, and I love in the end of the first part we end with a shot of Janeway doing something that she really never wanted to do, which is breaking up the family, as she says, and putting most of the crew in escape pods.
I love that scene as well. All the hatches open and pods. It's incredible.
just after that brilliant scene where they have to go to the Anorak shows up and tries to wipe Voyager out of time, and to escape they have to go to warp, but they don't have the hull integrity to be able to handle
literally
that.
pieces of flying off it.
I love that. I love that so much. It's so cool.
It's incredible.
Yeah. And again, it's sort of bittersweet because you wish that had stuck. You kind of wish that's Voyager. And Voyager looked like had massive bits of his hull missing for the rest of the show. But it's a great moment.
Chakotay obviously gets some meaty story stuff in this. Janeway obviously does because she really.
I think she really does.
I think the Doctor gets some good stuff because the Doctor is faced with put in a position where he has to literally shut out two crew members before they can reach Jeffrey's tube and condemn them to death.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking because he sees them coming and he's holding it and he realises his time is up. He pulls that shut. You cut to the exterior of the ship, and the deck blows out all along. It's just like, God.
And then there's the conversation with Paris about that.
Because he's getting really snippy, and Paris is all like, "What are you getting cross with me for? I'm so good looking and why are you never cross with me? Because I've got fucking problems, Tom Paris. It's not always about you, you fucking twat."
Oh my gosh. Well, I thought you were a big fan of Tom. Oh no, wait, I never thought that. But yeah, that's some really good meaty stuff for the Doctor, because also and ultimately he did make the right decision. I mean, if he hadn't have closed that hatch, Voyager could have been destroyed.
It's kind of fascinating because in a way, there's no way any part of the Doctor's programming could be prepared for that.
No.
Yeah.
Because he shouldn't be able to leave sickbay.
But isn't it? It's a triage.
Yeah.
And it's the opposite of what Anorak is doing as well, I suppose, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like so the Doctor's doing something he doesn't want to do to save lives. And Anorak is doing something he wants to do to save a life.
One life. Is saving. Anorak is saving one life at the expense of just
whole
countless
civilizations. And Tuvok and Seven get some great character stuff.
Yes.
This episode, actually, I really like that bond that they form.
I particularly like the as Seven leads a blinded Tuvok down the corridor, and Neelix comes out and starts talking about alternate intruder alert alarm.
That's a good scene.
And
yeah.
After Tuvok says the standard intruder alert will suffice, and Neelix like stick with the classics. Nice one. Is off, and then Tuvok just says to Seven as an aside, "And you think you've got problems?"
She has a messy roommate.
Yeah.
But also, there's a scene when they're coming back to the ship, showing the devastation of the ship and how many decks have been lost, and everyone's kind of bunking down in this dormitory. And then 7 of 9 has a roommate. So how are they allotting space?
Well, 7 of 9 used to just live in the cargo bay, so I'm
True.
assuming
Yeah.
she had to. It was the other person's quarters, and they had to stick her in her alcove in there.
Yeah.
Because they whatever they needed to do with the cargo bay.
Yeah. Well, if they lost the cargo bay.
We get a nice reference to First Contact.
Oh yes.
In a little
Lana
trivia
and
game that they
Harry.
play in the lift.
Oh yeah.
The Phoenix.
What?
The correct response to your query. The vessel Ensign Kim was describing it was designated the Phoenix.
Not bad. I didn't realize you knew so much about Earth history.
I don't. But the Borg were present during those events.
Really?
It's a complicated story. Perhaps another time.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was wondering how that worked, because I'm guessing it's the events of regeneration in Enterprise where that information...
Yeah, because there's no physical way that the Borg in First Contact could have communicated to the present, the 24th century Borg what had been going down. And that's if you want to get nitpicky, but yeah, whether regeneration did it or he just like, do you know what? It just happened. It didn't matter.
Yeah, there's a sort of a throwaway line where Seven says, you know, the Borg were there, the Borg were present. That incident is complicated.
But there's the Ignore me. You've just said it.
Oh, okay.
Generation. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Carry on. As you were.
But it's a nice line. I noticed that too. And,
Yeah.
Although it frustrates me because I'm like shouting at the screen, B'Elanna, it's first contact, for God's sake!
Yeah.
She was in a lot of pain.
She was.
She was. And then she got up and walked away.
Yeah, she was, oh, well, better go fix some engine stuff.
Yeah. Oh, what do you guys think of the whole that sort of story beat around Chakotay's made a little pocket watch for Janeway, and Janeway's like stick it in the replicator, recycle it.
He's like, I did
And
this months ago.
Yeah.
For you.
But she does keep.
If we go back to our Voyager
I like
romance episode, you know, kind of ship Chakotay Janeway.
Yeah.
Oh,
hard.
absolutely.
And so this was a little bit for all those Chakotay Janeway shippers. He's got her a really nice birthday present and stuff. And the reprise later when she finds he's disobeyed orders and not recycled it. And it gives her sort of a renewed purpose almost.
I really like that bit where she's like, how does it look to Neelix? He's like, very handsome. It's a nice little moment.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of Tapestry, where Picard tells a woman that she's very handsome. She slaps him. Because
she
it's
doesn't
not
say,
a great...
how do I look? She said, how does it look?
That's true. Yeah, that's some really nice stuff. I think Janeway's great in this two-parter. I love that they really it just feels like the whole concept of this episode is we can do all of the things that we always wanted to do on Voyager. We can push all of the characters to the absolute limit. We can do anything we want.
We literally got 2 hours to play with no consequences.
And then we have to push the reset button and that. But in those 2 hours,
all bets are
let's
off.
go to town. Let's push Janeway to her absolute limit. Let's make her like borderline, sort of like irresponsible, sort of obsessed with getting the ship home, and let's take her to the point where you're not even sure what you think of her as a character anymore. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Plus, she gets to go sort of a little bit action Janeway. She goes to her vest.
She means business.
It's a dirty vest, and I mean, some absolutely brilliant stuff with Janeway. I think.
God, yeah.
One criticism I have of part 2 is that she really quick right at the end of the episode. She off screen very quickly puts together an alliance.
Who follows her?
Of a fleet of ships for some reason. Yeah, and then they go and attack Anorax.
Why do all those guys have a problem with Anorax?
Yeah.
Well, maybe she has some record of the changes that have been made because they're not affected by the timeline.
Yes.
She can show them records.
She
of what
gives
has
them
been
temporal
done.
shielding. Doesn't she?
It must be difficult to prove.
Yeah, but how
them.
do they know that that's a thing? You know, how do they know that that's...
If he can prove his time fiddling, yes, I can see it, but...
And also, why would you follow that ship?
Because that was my thinking. It reminded me of, in the TNG episode Parallels, where there's a point where it's like a whole bunch of different parallel universes that Worf is jumping through. And there's a point where raggedy old Riker shows up in charge of a battered old Enterprise, and he's got a really
massive
scabby beard, and it's from a universe where they've been
overrun by the Borg. Yeah.
And I just think, but isn't that Voyager? when Voyager and Janeway show up on someone's view screen, aren't they a bit like, okay, do you know what? I don't know if we are going to join your alliance because for a start, the bridge is absolutely filthy. No one's swept up. Do you not have any brooms on that ship?
The broom cupboard is on deck 5.
You're wearing a filthy vest. I don't trust... It doesn't look like your temporal shields have done you a whole lot of good. Because of how the bridge is on fire.
Look at the state of your shield. But
Most of the
pocket
time
watch, It's
Yeah.
a handsome pocket watch. Okay, I'm in.
Most of the time, the bridge is literally on fire. I'd just be like, I think I'm not going to follow that ship into battle. So
Joe would be like, that's fine, that fire's supposed to be there.
yeah. It's part of the
It's a part
design.
of our culture.
It's an aesthetic.
We can polish the dunce out of the hole, it's fine.
And then two of the ships follow them, proceed to immediately fly into the fixed weapon.
Yeah, the bit that's on right. Yeah,
Don't fly.
Don't go in front of the ship where it's one massive time gun. Oh, you did go in front of it. Two of you have immediately been just, you fucking idiots.
Maybe that's why they. Maybe that's why they joined.
Yeah. Be like, let's follow Janeway to attack the time ship. Where does she sit?
What's that voice?
It's like stupid aliens. I don't know. They're the Smishmouth from Planet Croc. They're very silly there. But yeah, those two ships immediately fly into the one weapon that ship has and get totally wiped out. Oh, we shouldn't have gone in front of the ship, I suppose. Well, how were we supposed to know? It's maybe what they say.
That's the Daisy.
Yeah. And then but it's, I don't know, the whole ending of this episode is pretty cool though. There's a space back. We don't get a whole lot of effect shots. There's a brilliant shot where one of the ships that's attacking Anarax's ships gets kind of crippled and it smashes like all across the front of Voyager, and
the whole front wall of the bridge is destroyed.
Yeah,
no view. She's just looking out the hole.
It's amazing. And
That's kind of reprised in Nemesis as well, actually, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And Janeway's alone on the ship. She's opted to pilot the ship herself.
Oh,
she gets a beautiful goodbye with Tuvok. Yeah, that's a beautiful scene.
Moment. Yeah.
And I almost feel like we skipped over maybe like the 5 minutes worth of scenes we could have had where she's putting together that alliance, just so they had time to have a long scene with her and Tuvok.
In that case,
saying goodbye.
Worth it.
Yeah, I agree.
That was a really beautiful scene.
Yeah.
Because why do we need to know how she put together that alliance? What does that tell us in the story, really?
When you look through stuff, people rave about the Kirk-Spock friendship. And for my money, the Janeway Tuvok relationship is just as strong and just as effective, but it's just not as overt. It's not there. But the scenes it does get are absolutely incredible, and they're really effective. And I think that year of Hell Goodbye, even though it potentially obviously never happened, it's just such a key thing to that. And it's a really, really, it's a beautiful, touching scene.
As illogical as this might sound, I feel as close to Voyager as I do to any other member of my crew. It's carried us, Tuvok. Even nurtured us. And right now, it needs one of us.
I respect your decision. Live long and prosper, Captain.
And then the whole then we get onto the whole reset button thing. But we end with an absolute perfect line, which you could argue verges into the realms of perhaps being a little bit cheesy. Perhaps like it's taken from an 80s action movie.
I think when Janeway sat in her chair, in her dirty vest, with the bridge smashed around, the ship in pieces, she's earned it. She's earned the chance to just do that ridiculous, stupid, cheesy line.
Time's up.
If that ship is destroyed, all of history might be restored. And this is 1 year I'd like to forget. Time's up.
She takes Voyager, sets it to ramming speed, smashes it into Anarax's ship, and the temporal core explodes, and it
Yeah.
An
it's
incursion inside the ship.
Yes, that's it. That's what they say.
The crash itself is incredible.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's an effects work. It's just a masterpiece, really.
Yeah.
Voyager just crumples into that and just disintegrates against the hull, and yeah,
it's great. I love one of the things I love about Star Trek is any episode where we see the main ship or space station destroyed. Immediately, that's a 5-star episode for me. I just love it. It ticks every single box.
Yeah, because
that I have.
it's an emotional kick, isn't it?
Yeah.
You invest in that ship or station or whatever.
Yeah.
Because of course you do. It's the key hero.
Yeah.
You know, we talk actually about the impact in these 2 episodes on Janeway, Chakotay, and stuff. On the ship, we see it ripped apart across the course of these 2 episodes. It's in a state, and for it to finally just meet its end, to end it all, and reverse everything, is kind of really fitting.
Yeah.
But it is a kicker because you do invest in that ship. So.
And I think that they took a real. There must have been some debate in the writers' room. It's like, are we really going to have Janeway say? Are we going to have her do a pun? Are we going to have her say "time's up" and then ran the ship into an array? Are we actually going to do that? And I, obviously the argument was yes, because
yes.
at this point the audience is so invested.
They must have spitballed some lines. Like,
yeah,
I don't think.
Put that in your clock and smoke it.
Yeah.
Clock off.
Yeah.
Or, come on,
do you know what time it is? Time to die. Death time. I don't know. This is why I'm not a
Time's
writer.
Up works best.
To be of all of those ideas,
Time's Up is really good.
It's delivered so well as well.
I wish we'd thought ahead and come up with some actual good suggestions.
We should have put that in our structure.
Look at my handsome watch.
Yeah.
Well, that in itself is significant, a timepiece given the backdrop and the theme of the story.
I was thinking, what it is massively fortunate that he did replicate her a watch, not say, I don't know, one of those little China dogs that goes on the mantelpiece.
Yeah.
Or like one of those like waving cats that you get in Chinese restaurants.
Yeah. Do you know what would have been cooler? If Voyager had smashed into Anorax's ship but it hadn't been destroyed, it was like sticking out of it, a la Nemesis. And Janeway had run down into the ship and she'd have wielded that pocket watch, swung it around her head like a kind of a nunchuck.
We're too old for this, Anorax.
Yeah. Smacked Anorax in the face with it.
Knocked
and then
into
she'd
the
have been
time
like,
core,
time's up.
inexplicably causing an explosion of the time core.
That she could have run
incursion.
She could have run away from that explosion in slow motion.
Why? She wanted everything to be changed as much as everyone else.
No, good point. She's going to run into it.
Yeah. Maybe she'd run away and then go, actually, if I'm changed by this, it's all good. And let it go.
Yeah.
Slightly less pithy.
Time's up.
Time's up.
We've just made it worse.
I think we've learned why the podcasters of 10 Backwards are not writers on a Star Trek show. But the bottom line is it's a cool ending, but it is bittersweet because they do push the reset button, and this is maybe one of the problems with the episode is that it's a shame that basically it didn't happen. No one remembers this.
If it was made today, it would be so many episodes against the Krenim, and it would have repercussions throughout the rest of the story. They wouldn't have reset.
You could have done something like season 3 of Enterprise, where they did have one big
the state of Enterprise by the end of that season was comparable.
Yeah. And I think about Battlestar Galactica in its later seasons, where the Galactica was getting battered and battered, and I remember hearing a podcast with Ron Moore where he was talking about that, and he cited his frustrations with Voyager. In particular, in its lack of continuity, and that's one thing he wanted to bring to Battlestar Galactica, and he was directly I think he did. He makes a direct reference to Year of Hell and how he loved how Voyager gets really battered up in that episode, and that's what he wanted for the Galactica, but for it to stick, to have actually happened, and it's sort of indicative of Voyager that there isn't a continuation from the episode. It's never mentioned because it
never happened.
I guess.
But regardless of that, it's still a hell of a good 2 hours of TV to watch.
It is.
It's really fantastic stuff.
I love it.
What do we think of the end scene where you see Anorax, presumably 200 years ago, doing his calculations?
There are always a few more calculations. It's a beautiful day. Spend it with me.
I suppose I can make the time.
And he's still thinking to plan incursions.
So, I mean, obviously, which you would, because why wouldn't?
It's just a bit sort of. So what? Because nothing ever comes of that.
But it is saying it does happen, and it is going to happen, and it did happen.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe he stayed and worked on those plans the first time around, and now he's made a different decision.
Well, yeah, I think that's maybe what it was implying, because he did say that there was a conversation with Chakotay when he was talking about how he would stay up all night doing, and she was asleep in the other room. And whereas at this point he makes a decision to go and be with his wife.
But why? But why does that? Why has anything changed effectively?
Yeah, exactly. Because it wouldn't. Because the incursion happened. The incursion changed everything that the ship had done, but not everything that happened before the first incursion that the ship made.
Yeah. So surely the ship always is it like a loop?
I guess you suggested. I guess you hinted at why he's doing this thing, and it sort of gives some sort of end to that character, doesn't it? Like it doesn't resolve it. It doesn't resolve it, but it gives some sort of, for the purpose of the episode, some sort of finality.
I suppose it's
the
like
actions that were taken.
It's like an emotional payoff, I guess, that we see him with his wife, but it's not. But yeah, when you dig down into it, it isn't a logically satisfying necessarily, but it's. I don't know. They don't have much time. They have like one scene they can do, and it's on the surface it's emotional. You see him with his wife. You see that he's.
But maybe they hang out, and then she's not on that colony when something happens in the war.
I think it would have been better if he'd remembered it, and he could learn from what I'd done.
Yeah.
Yes, if there was some sort of. Little...
The thing is, there's no way to consistently portray the science and have that happen, really. But I think it would be if he just learned, if someone remembered and learned from this experience.
Do you know what should have happened? While him and his wife were just about to head off to have breakfast or whatever, Janeway comes out from behind the pillar, swinging that pocket watch around her head. She's like, "Time's up, motherfucker!" And swings it, and it like smashes into his face. And then she's like, "Do you know what time it is? 10:15.
That's a temporal incursion for you, bitch.
Yeah. I got it. I got your temporal incursion right here. She's pointing to her junk.
And then she just looks up and sees the wife, and it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah. And she just backs off, like really slowly,
screaming and crying.
Yeah, she's like, "Sorry, you don't know who I am, but we've been through a really complicated. There was a whole year where I like my ship get battered. Shit. Yeah." She's like, "Who are you?" She's like, "Oh, Chakotay, beam me up." Guess the original ending of that episode probably is better, isn't it?
It doesn't seem so bad now.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I think our ability to come up with infinitely worse ideas than what we've seen on the screen is not contested.
Yeah. Well, join us next episode where we're going to take an awful episode of Star Trek and make it seem so much better with compared to our own terrible ideas.
Yeah, we'll be looking at Justice, and you after that episode, you will appreciate Justice as the masterpiece it is. But yeah, I think it feels like we've reached our natural end of that discussion.
Anyone else have any other points to raise?
No, I just thought it was really good.
It's a fantastic
two-parter and very enjoyable.
I'd put it up there in my top 10 Voyager episodes. I genuinely think it's some of the best work that Voyager ever did. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's everything, because looking at the recording time, time's up.
Oh.
Bye.
See ya.
Goodbye.
Hello and welcome to 10 Backward, a UK-based Star Trek podcast featuring myself, Will Turland, this lady to my left, Gemma Turland.
Hello.
This man to my further left, Rick Everson.
Hello.
And this man opposite me, Rick Palmer.
Hi there.
Today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about a Voyager episode. Yeah. Oh, well, that's funny. Well, I thought we were going to be discussing a Voyager episode today, but I can't remember.
There's a Voyager episode called Normal Day.
That must be it. I think maybe that's what we were going to talk about. Not the episode Normal Day, where nothing happens. They just have a regular standard.
It's quite nice. It's a nice soft episode where you see the everyday working of the Voyager crew.
I think they're about to go through like an alien species, like a Krenim, I think they're called. They're going to go through their space, and then they get a call saying, "Oh, you don't want to come through here because it's contested," and
they have to go around.
They have to go around, and it's a bit of an inconvenience, but they seem to be fine with it. And then the episode, it's a short episode,
it's a bit
isn't
of a
it?
bottle episode.
Yeah.
Obviously, they didn't have enough money for it, so they keep it very contained to the mundanities of the ship life.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just felt like we would have more to talk about.
I don't know why we chose that one,
but yeah, I guess that's the end of the podcast, isn't it? Well, thank you very much for listening, everybody. It's a shame that
a short episode.
Yeah,
there's not a lot to say. So
well, join us again next time. Well, hopefully we'll pick an episode with a bit more going on.
That's it. Thank you very much, listeners. Cheers.
Bye.
Do you realize how incredible this is? It's tradition.
You ever noticed her bum? What? Her bum.
Oh no!
I will say fewer things.
Okay.
Enough of this self-indulgence.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you want to get in touch with us, our website is www.lowerdecksradio.co.uk. You can reach us on the Twitters at 10Backward, 10 being the number and backward being the word backward. We're also on Facebook at www.facebook.com/10Backward podcast. You can also email us at crew@lowerdecksradio.co.uk. On a personal, individual level, my Twitter is @Will Turland. Rick Everson's Twitter is @TrekFanRick. And Rick Palmer's Twitter is @Mr. Imhotep.
Hi, thank you again for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you might consider supporting us. We now have a Patreon where people can pledge small amounts to fund our ongoing projects like keeping our website up to date, new audio equipment as we're going along, and potentially opportunities to expand our content. You can go look at this at patreon.com/lowerdecksradio. If you don't feel you can donate but would still like to support us, we would love it if you could subscribe to us on however you get your podcasts, through iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or we're on various third-party apps. And if you could leave us a review on any of those, that would be fantastic and we'd be very appreciative.
Thanks again for listening, and please tune in for more podcasts from the 10 Backward crew.
Laddie, don't you think you should rephrase that?
10 Backward.
10 Backward. Hello and welcome to 10 Backward. Here to... Fuck. It's alright, I can fix it in the editing.
Start again.
Hello and welcome to 10Backward, a UK-based podcast about Star... Fuck! Right, let me try again.
Why don't we just loop the original?
Oh, because that would be too easy. Right, everyone make a straight face.
Redo this intro swinging his This is also a Patreon bonus.
Yeah. You lucky patrons. Hello and welcome to 10Backward, a Star Trek podcast based here in the UK. To my left... wait! My name is Will. My name is Will.
What's going on?
I don't know.
The hysteria is not reached.
I'm just really confused.
This is literally Deck 5 exploding.
Yeah.
Oh.